I've met with people all over California. I've listened and learned, and that's why I authored a mortgage refinancing plan to help families stay in their homes. It's why I support investments in research and development, education and transportation to create good jobs. And I'll always protect a woman's right to choose and honor our nation's commitment to Medicare and Social Security. I'm Dianne Feinstein, and I approve this message. I'm chairman of the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence and have been the chairman for 3 years now. I voted to go to war in Iraq because of bad intelligence. I don't want that to ever happen again. I live with that vote. So I have tried very hard to see that we provide the best oversight of the 16 different intelligence agencies, that intelligence is good, that it is streamlined, that it is right, and that the kind of intelligence that led to the takedown of Osama bin Laden can continue in all other areas. Right now, the law is ambiguous. Americans can be picked up by the military or by our local or by our federal government and detained without charge or trial and held there. That is wrong. So I have proposed legislation that would make it clear that citizens and legal residents of the United States cannot be arrested and held in detention without counsel or trial. I was the author of the assault weapons legislation, which lasted for 10 years and reduced the supply of assault weapons. Incidents like Columbine, like Aurora, Virginia Tech, incidents in our state, have convinced me that weapons of war don't belong on the streets of our cities. And so we are putting together an updated bill, and it would be my plan to introduce it in the next Congress. In the mid-90s, I voted against a bill, it was one of about a dozen to do so, to remove federal rights from legally married same-sex couples. Family law is state law, not federal law. So those states that have legalized gay marriage, I believe, should have the same federal rights as anybody else. I believe it's an equal protection issue. We have more than 24 co-sponsors. We're moving along, and I hope to be able to finish it in the next session. I've been increasingly concerned that chemicals are added to products. They're used to soften and harden plastics. They're used to line tin cans for extended shelf use that have never really been tested in the United States to know for sure that they are benign. And increasingly what we're finding, particularly with something called bisphenol A, BPA, is that these chemicals are very likely harmful to health, particularly to infants and very small children. 95% of us have BPA in our urine. This makes no sense to me. So we are going to work very hard to see if we can find replacements, we can enact a precautionary standard, and we can get some of these chemicals out of our food products. Well, we have 3 big nuclear reactors in the state, and we are in the ring of fire as far as earthquakes are concerned. It is critical that we find a waste repository for hot nuclear waste, which is now stored in spent fuel pools directly adjacent to a huge nuclear reactor. As chairman of the Energy and Water Subcommittee, I would like to make this a very high priority. We have actually written some pilot legislation. It's in the bill, which unfortunately is delayed, but we will try again next year. I'm determined, first of all, to protect the California desert, the Mojave, where we've got desert tortoises, bighorn sheeps, all kinds of beauty, particularly in the spring. Done one bill, we've got a second bill coming. Lake Tahoe, where erosion and pollutants are changing the clarity of the lake. Taking the salt ponds in San Francisco Bay and turning them into wetlands, This is now in process, and every time I fly in, I look down, and instead of big orange ponds, I see the beginning of new wetlands, and birds are coming back to the bay. In the last 10 years, the Republican Party has actually gone from a rather centrist conservative party to a very radical right-wing party. And high on the agenda has been overturning Roe v. Wade and removing a woman's right to control her own reproductive system. I have seen this in vote after vote after vote. And now the latest is Planned Parenthood. And you have a presidential candidate who is saying if he's elected, he will shut down Planned Parenthood. It's even reached contraception. And there is a desire there to limit the ability of a woman to avail herself of contraception. This has been a constant, long march, and it must be stopped. I love Big Bird, and even more if the only thing that the Republican candidate can think of to cut in the federal government is Big Bird. My goodness.